Hi everyone! So yesterday I announced the Eat to Focus Breakfast Challenge. So today I want to talk about the food to avoid for ADHD to help you get some ideas for the challenge. And so how much does food affect your child's ADHD symptoms? Parents often ask what kind of food to avoid for ADHD, and they're often surprised at how even some of the food that we thought are healthy is actually not good for someone with ADHD. And the problem is not because we are ignorant, but the problem is that we're learning or getting our nutrition education from big food companies who tells us what is healthy to feed our family based on their profit goals. And food manufacturer tells us what food is healthy. Food manufacturer tell us that their food is healthy, is fun, is kid-friendly, is convenient, and of course, it's cheap, right? So the solution is really easy. It's basically to stop watching TV commercials and magazine ads and start listening to nutrition expert and real science. Most people have a pretty good idea of what a healthy diet is, so a lot of fresh produce, lean protein, and whole grains. However, some of these healthy food or healthy diet does not really work well with someone with ADHD. And last week we talked about the different causes or underlying causes of ADHD, so you can go back and review that. So basically, the body of someone with ADHD doesn't kind of function differently. The brain functions differently, the intestine works differently, and there are also nutrient deficiency that we're not aware of, that scientists are finding more of those. So basically is when you nourish your child with ADHD, nourish their body with the right nutrition that his or her body can actually recognize and use properly, you'll see improvement in ADHD behaviors without medications. So that makes sense? So let's look at a list of foods that are frequently perceived as healthy but might not work very well for someone with ADHD or actually even just normal human being. So the number one are bottled juices and flavored drinks. So many sodas, flavored drinks, and even sports drinks are flavored with artificial flavorings, high fructose corn syrup, and they also get the pretty colors from artificial coloring. So all of these sugar, both artificial and natural forms, even the natural sugar from fruit juices, is actually affecting the ADHD brain in a negative way. Remember, the ADHD brain doesn't process sugar or carbohydrate very well, so you don't really want to stuff the body with all that sugar that the body doesn't know what to do with it. Besides, the fructose, in particularly fruit sugar, affects the dopamine reward center even worse than other sugar. So that's definitely something I would avoid. And if you think that your child is addicted to sugar, chances are he or she is really addicted to sugar. And I often get this question a lot too. What about 100% juice? Well, the bad news is they're just as bad as soda. Even if they're organic or 100% juice. Food manufacturer will tell you that, oh yeah, juice is good. Your child needs fruit, so if they don't want to eat fruit, give them the juice. But that's not true. Fruit juices are actually made months before they even hit the supermarket. So they're pasteurized, meaning that all the beneficial enzymes and nutrients are pretty much dead. So what you really get by the time you get it from the store, you're just getting the dead sugar water from fruits. So they're not worth drinking. The only kind of juice worth drinking will be freshly squeezed juice made from organic fresh produce, and you drink that within an hour of making. These are the best juice. And even with this kind of juice, you still want to limit the amount that you drink, because all that extra sugar, because it's in a juice form, so it's like pure sugar, so it rushes into the body really fast. And again, the ADHD brain does not process sugar or carbohydrate well. So what about diet soda that have no real sugar? Well, they're not even that better or healthier. There's just sweetened with artificial sweeteners, and diet soda and diet drinks are are advertised as healthy alternative to sugary pops and sodas, but they're basically just as poisonous because diet soda and flavored water, they're contaminated with food colorings and artificial flavorings and artificial sweeteners to make it sweet. But actually, all these things have been proven that they can cause cancer, they can affect how the body functions, affect the hormone, cause inflammation and insulin resistance, and it still also interfere with the dopamine reward symptoms, dopamine reward centers to create cravings and unnecessary unpleasant behavior. And then number 2 are grains. So we often think that grains, whole wheat are good for us, but the reality is they're not, especially for someone who doesn't process or have good digestion. So there's a couple reasons for that in relationship to someone with ADHD. So poorly digested gluten, which is a protein in grains or in wheat product, it produces something called gluten, which is a protein that acts similarly to things like morphine and heroin. So these food protein or from partially digested gluten or wheat actually can get through into the bloodstream, into the brain, and kind of interacts with the brain just like morphine and heroin, causing some of the same addictive behavior you see in someone who's a drug addict. So number 2 with grains is that there are also studies to show there's a strong association between people with ADHD and celiac disease. There's this study that they look at 67 people with ADHD between the age of 7 to 42 years old. And they found that within this study group, 15% of these people have celiac disease. Compared to the general population, there's only 1% people with celiac disease in the general population. And then the second part of this studies is putting these people on a gluten-free diet, and they show significant improvement in ADHD symptoms when these people are put on a gluten-free diet. And then the number 3 food will be cow's milk. I know, like since the day your child is born, everyone's been telling you that you need calcium. No, actually back that up even more. Since when you find out you're pregnant, everyone's telling you that you need to drink milk, you need the calcium. Then when your child is born, then everyone keep telling you the same thing. Your child needs calcium from milk, you need to drink milk. But the problem is, milk is not the best source of calcium. And also for kids with ADHD, milk is not even a good food at all. So a couple questions you can ask yourself is, does your child crave dairy product like milk, cheese, and yogurt? The reason why is because when milk or the milk protein is not digested properly, it forms something called casomorphin, which is a protein that can actually sneak through the gut. Like they're not supposed to, but it sneaks through the gut, get into a bloodstream and into a brain. And in the brain, just like the gluten we talked about earlier, it attached to the same morphine receptor in the brain, acting just like morphine and heroin and causing addictive behavior. And then again, between milk and gluten, some of the more explosive and irrational or explosive behavior seen in ADHD actually comes from this morphine-like protein that is interfering with the brain function. So again, these kind of protein, so casomorphin and gluten attached to the brain to the dopamine reward symptoms, so it creates craving or addiction behaviors. So, and also the second reason why milk is not good is because a lot of the studies also find that milk is loaded with hormones, things like estrogen, insulin growth hormone, and prolactin glucocorticosteroids. So all these hormones, when you're taking in all these hormones, it's going to affect your body's hormonal system, causing unpleasant response like unnecessary inflammation and unnecessary immune reaction. And in fact, 60 to 70% of animal derived estrogen in the human diet actually comes from milk protein or milk and dairy product. So imagine just cutting out milk protein and dairy product, you'll cut out a lot of all that hormones, because you don't want to have other hormones interfering with your own body system. And then the number 4 food to avoid will be genetically modified organism food, or GMO. So we hear a lot of conflicting information as to whether genetically modified food is good or not. Well, it kind of depends. The fact is, genetically modified food is not a new concept in human history. Human has been crossbreeding different food since, like, well, according to my research, was 12,000 BCE ago. But back then, what they're doing is the selective selection is more based on the same species. Like a plant with a white flower will combine with the same plant with yellow flower or pink flower, so it comes out with a different color. So the genetically modifying or selective breeding thousands of years ago are a lot simpler, a lot more natural. But the ones that we're doing nowadays, they do it in a lab with highly with a very scientific process called genetic engineering. So the problem with this process is, or actually one benefit of this process is, they're able to crossbreed between species. So we ended up with food that have different characteristics that comes from plant, animal, bacteria, and virus. All those genes combined together. And this is the problem with the genetically modified food nowadays, is we're combining different species, the genes of different species together. Basically, we're creating a Frankenstein food. So that's the reason why the genetically modified food we have nowadays are dangerous, because we're creating this monster food that the body is not meant to process or break down or recognize. So overall, this food, because the body doesn't recognize it, the body treats it as a foreign invader and just activate the whole immune system, causing inflammation all over the place. And actually, one of the symptoms or one of the cause of ADHD is a systemic inflammation caused by food, and actually food is the main source of that inflammation. So in particular, the worst food to eat nowadays are grains, which we all think is good, beans, which we also think is good, soy and corn. About 90% of these foods are actually genetically modified. So I would avoid these foods as much as possible if you really value your brain. And then the last point, I thought I'll throw that in, is that genetically modified food can cause cancer through cellular damage, because again, the body does not recognize this food. So that's it. That's the biggest 4 food to avoid for ADHD. For the food list, you can go to the food post that I have on my website, and I'll post that link either up in the description or in the comment below. So I hope you find this information helpful. Let me know what you think and comment below. And remember, ADHD doesn't doom your child to a life of underachievement. You know your child is bright and full of potential and deserves the best. And in fact, many of the world's greatest discoveries and inventions are made by people with ADHD. And I helped my crazy wild child who couldn't read or write when she was little, and I helped her with the 4 steps that I laid out in the Eat to Focus book. And now she's a merit scholarship student majoring in pre-med at Loyola Chicago. So stay strong and keep believing in your child. Don't forget to check out my book at Amazon.com to learn about the 4 steps that can help transform your child's life as well. And also, don't forget to sign up for the breakfast challenge starting on May 1st. Okay, that's it for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye.